Hey guys, Adam here. Welcome to another build video. We're going to be building today a Windows home server for my house. I'd like to have a system where I can do my backups automatically for my Windows machines and store a little bit of extra media. I have the FreeNAS box where I put most of my multimedia stuff, but I want to set up an additional machine where I can do some extra backups and so forth. It's going to be pretty similar to the machine that I built for my FreeNAS box that has the same motherboard, which is a Gigabyte B75M DH3, or D3H I should say. It has the same processor. This is my last Celeron. I've actually I bought two of these at once. Celeron G530. It's an older Celeron, but it works just fine. It should be able to do everything I need to with Windows Home Server. I have 8 gigabytes of Corsair RAM here. From what I understand, Windows Home Server is limited to 8 gigabytes of RAM, probably because they don't want you getting into like server essentials kind of stuff and whatnot. The power supply is going to be Corsair CX500M. We have 4 used 2 terabyte hard drives from another machine that I pulled, and I bought a 160 gigabyte Western Digital hard drive off eBay for like 20 bucks that I'm going to use as the operating system disk. Of course, we have Windows Home Server itself right there, and some Noctua fans for the case. We have 290mm and one 120mm, and then the case itself, which I think is a pretty old case actually. It's an Antec Titan. This one does not include a power supply because I did not want the 650 watt Antec power supply. There are a few reasons I bought this case. We'll go over those as I open up the case and we take a look at it. So I'm going to unbox the case, get all this stuff cleared out of the way, and we'll take a look at the case. Alright, so here's a look at the front side of the case. It has a locking cover here, which I appreciate because I'm actually going to be putting in some hot swap drive bays, and I would like to be able to actually lock them because this is going to be out in my living room and I have a young son. I don't want him messing with any of the power buttons or anything on this thing, so that can be locked and just let, you know, it's out of the way. This is an older case, so it still has FireWire on it. It's got a couple USB ports in the front, the sound, which I don't really need. It's really long, like it's a very long case. You can put a lot of stuff inside from what I understand. It's really meant for larger motherboards than what I'm using, but I don't really care. These thumb screws are strange. Looks like the thumb screws actually stay connected, which is nice. It might be kind of hard to show here, but the thumb screws are actually integrated with springs onto the back side of the side panel. I really like that. I wish that more cases had that. That's actually really cool. Be nice to not have to worry about losing those. So I'm going to set that aside. So of course it came with a user's manual, and in here we have all the little rails for drives. Looks like some plastic rails for drives. Not exactly sure what this is for. Some sort of plate. Is that the... Let's take a look at this plate. Not sure what the purpose of this plate is. So that goes towards I/O, it says. Point of that is, but we'll figure it out as we go. I've never really dealt with an enterprise grade case before. This is supposed to be an enterprise grade case, so I don't know. And a whole bunch of screws, which is very kind of them. It looks like there's the keys to the case, so I want to put those somewhere safe. And then you have a basic USB front ports, that sort of stuff. Comes with a couple of fans, but we're going to be replacing these fans. Actually, I think it only comes with the... Yeah, it doesn't come with the front fan. So it only comes with this rear fan. We're going to be replacing that anyway, so that's not a big deal. There's 2 spots for 90mm fans in the front. There's 4 5 1/4 inch drive bays, and then I think it's like 6 or something. 3.5 inch. Now, normally I like my drives to mount this way because it's easier, but in this particular case, since there's so much room between the motherboard and the drive cage, I don't think it's going to be a problem of running into wires and stuff. There's not going to be a graphics card in this, So I don't think it's going to be a problem with that sort of stuff. And from what I understand, this front panel pulls off somehow, which I'll figure out. Looks like there's just a couple. So I don't actually have any hot swap drive bays for this yet because I don't really need them. That was more, the idea was for future expansion if I do want them. It's not going to have any optical drives in it, so I just mainly wanted the power button to be locked up was what I was looking for in a case. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this fan and we'll start getting the replacement fans mounted up. I also like that, these are all together in a braided thing, or they're just black like that. That actually doesn't look too bad. Cable management isn't going to be exactly possible like in a traditional sense in this case, but we'll make do as best we can. So I'm going to pull that fan out and we'll get the Noctua fans ready to go. Alright, so we got that front panel off. It was pretty simple. It's actually kind of a cool design. There's just a few clips on this from the front, from the left side, and these metal hooks that hook into the case. So you actually just undo these 3 clips and the thing opens that way and you can slide it out of the way. So looks like they have thumb screws here, which I don't know how I feel about that. Seems like kind of a silly place to have a thumb screw, but I suppose it simplifies changing out the drives. Yeah, so now we have the drive bay opened up. I guess that's why they actually have those thumb screws there, now that I think of it. I'm going to go ahead and put in my 2 Noctua fans here. Looks like 12, that's a 120. So they're 92mm fans. At least that's what it said online. It looks like about 92mm. Hopefully these will fit. And open this bad boy up. I'm not sure what I have for headers on the motherboard. I don't really remember, so we may end up needing to use a Y adapter. But yeah, that looks like it's going to line up just perfectly. So I'm going to use these screws that Noctua so kindly includes. The case probably comes with some too, but oh well. These ones are handy, so they're what we're going to use. So I'll probably hook these. I believe there's going to be at least I'm sure there's at least 2 system fan things on that motherboard, so we'll probably be able to hook this up to the a Y connector, these 2 fans together, and I believe that will work. So when you're installing fans, the direction of flow for the air always goes towards the stationary part of the hub, so we want to install these so the air will be blowing into the hard drive cage. It's always a good idea just to get the screws barely started, at least in the 2 corners, and then tighten them down, because sometimes you can get things into a position where you really can't start the other screws, so I always just take it easy. And my screw fell out. Wonderful. So you don't want to put them in too tight, but you definitely don't want to put them in loose enough that they just come flying out too. So it's always hard a little bit when you have a brand new fan that hasn't had the plastic scored or whatever you want to call it for a fan yet. So I'm going to go ahead and get the other one in, and we'll go ahead and take care of the back fan. So installing the fan on the back is going to be the exact same procedure. So I'm not really going to show that whole thing. This is the fan, but in this case we want it to exhaust out the back, so it's going to be mounted that way. So go ahead and take care of that, and I'll be back in one quick second. Now looking at this case, it looks like there's a cover here on the back that covers this lower exhaust. We're going to leave that in place because I don't think it really matters. But on the inside, I'm not thinking it's going to be any issue at all to install the motherboard with the power supply in place. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and put our power supply in. This is a Corsair power supply. I'm only going to put on the modules that I need, but we'll deal with that at a later time. It's only semi-modular, which I don't really see the point in a fully modular power supply, because I'm going to have an ATX power connector on here, obviously. So It's got the power connector and it's got the CPU connector just built in. So I need to find the screws that go with this, which might take a quick second here. I need a pair of black screws. Well, actually, I suppose it really doesn't matter. I have a little can of screws handy here, so come to think of it, this case isn't really black, so it doesn't matter so much what screws I use. I have these ones handy, so just regular coarse threaded hex-headed screws will work just fine for this. Now, since there's no vent in the top or anything, the power supply has to vent this way, so we'll probably actually end up with negative pressure on this case. I haven't really done the math to figure it out, but I would think so. Now, it looks like there's a bar that's like semi in the way at the top here. Just trying to lift this power supply up to fit, and there it goes. Tight fit. So it pretty much holds itself in without any screws, which is always nice because it makes it a lot easier to install because I don't have to fight it. So I'm not even going to bother. I'm just tightening these down all the way. Usually I would, work on a corner at a time or whatever, but that was easy. I appreciate that. I always like Antec cases. They seem high quality, and although I've never used one in this series, the quality still seems like it's there. So I'm not sure exactly what year this case is from. There's not a lot of information about this case online, actually. I don't know why. It's kind of a perfect case for these kind of storage things. I kind of wish I'd known about this case before I built my FreeNAS system, because this is actually a nice case for that. But doesn't matter. So we're good with our fans. Go ahead and throw this box away. And I guess the next step is going to be prepping the motherboard. I'm going to just shove these cables through here for now so they're out of the way. I'm actually going to read the manual real quick too, just to see what exactly this plate is for. So I'm going to do some reading and I'll be back. Well, I looked into it and I'm not exactly sure what the purpose of the that plate is going to be, so I'm going to just ignore that plate because it seems like it's probably for some servery thing that I don't have, so I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to go ahead and get my I/O shield out here. And as usual, you just kind of shove it in, I assume. Alright, so I already went ahead and put in the I/O shield for the motherboard, so go ahead and open this up. Discharge yourself just to make sure. I've never fried a board before, but it's always a good idea to discharge first. Throw the bag aside. Get our CPU open here. There we go. Cut the seal. And really not a lot comes in these boxes. Pretty much you got a giant instruction manual with your Intel Celeron sticker. I've never actually read the instruction manual, but we are going to be using the stock cooler, as this is just a Celeron. It's not really any reason to go with any sort of crazy cooling for the CPU. I usually do use the stock Intel coolers, unless unless it's like an i7 or an i5, something that I care more about. So here's our CPU. We just go ahead and move this little locking arm over, lift up the plate, and this usually sticks. I don't know. So whenever you're not using the board, you want to put that back. So I always hold on to those. So the CPU is going to have a little triangle in the corner. That triangle should correspond with a triangle on the frame of that holds the processor down. So you just kind of drop it in I give it a little wiggle to make sure it feels like it's seated right. Drop this down. It takes a fair amount of force, and there you go. So that's good to go. As far as the cooler goes, Intel kindly put thermal compound on here previously, so we don't have to do that. And we just go ahead and position the thing, snap it down, give each one of these a turn. I generally do them in opposite corners. And that unclips the other one. So we want to check the back of the board just to make sure these plastic feet are all coming out, which they are. Go ahead and unravel this just a little bit. Where's my fan header? CPU fan header is all the way over there. So just pull this out and plug it into the header. So I'll tidy up these cables. I don't know what I'll do with it. Figure that out later. It's not important right now. While I have the board out, it's going to be easier, I think, to put the memory in right now. So we just grab a stick of RAM, try to find out where the little opening is. There we go. Now, of course, these are always keyed, so you just want to pay attention to the key on the motherboard. And what I mean by that is there's a line right there you can see. It matches up with the RAM. So all you do is you take the RAM, make sure that key matches, and give it a little push and it will click in. So I think these two, this one has a blue label and that one has a black label, so I think they're actually slightly different memory. This is just memory that I had lying around from another machine. So I'm going to put the ones with the blue label in one channel and the ones with the black in another. They're rated the same and everything, but just want to make sure. I mean, this isn't going to be high performance anyway, so. So just keep repeating that process and we'll be good to go. Now, unfortunately, I got my risers in, and it doesn't look like this case particularly well supports micro ATX boards. So we were only going to be able to go with 4 of the risers, which means there's only going to be 4 screws. I don't anticipate that being a big problem because this is a small board and we're not going to have a whole lot of extra stuff hanging off of it. I am probably going to put in a couple of PCI based expansion cards, but I don't anticipate it being a big problem. So just trying to get one of the screws started here, and we're pretty much golden now. So I'm going to get the rest of these in and then we can get power hooked up. Now, these holes look like they might be a good idea to try to do power management through, power cable management, but there is no space on the other side for cable management between the outside shell of the case and the motherboard tray. So cable management is really just going to be a lot of zip ties in this thing pretty much. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, I suppose. So go ahead and plug that bad boy in, and since there's no standoffs back here, I'm going to support the back of the board with my hand when I'm pushing this in, and give that a tug. That's secured. Mainly I just don't want the board to flex too much when I'm doing that. And then go ahead up here. So I'm just going to end up probably zip tying this stuff together in a bunch up there somehow. So it's not ideal, but it will do. So I'm going to clear this trash out of the way, and we'll figure out what to do next. Well, I wouldn't exactly call it cable management, but it's good enough. I have a couple of PCI and a PCI Express card I want to put in. I have 2 of these VIA SATA adapters. They each give me 2 more SATA channels and a IDE channel if I want that. So I'm going to put those in along with this Intel Pro Gigabit network adapters, so I think I'm just going to put them 1, 2, 3 in those slots there. It's not exactly easy to get a screwdriver. That's a weird feature of this case too. This sticks out really far, so it's a strange angle to get a screwdriver in on. I'm actually usually opposed to putting thumb screws in a place like this, but it kind of seems like it'd be a good idea here because I have to put my screwdriver in at a crazy angle. It's weird. So we have 6 channels on the actual motherboard. I think I actually took out one too low there, didn't I? That's fantastic. We have 6 channels on the motherboard for SATA. 2 of them are SATA 3, and then 2 SATA 2s. And then I can extend a couple more SATA channels here. I probably am going to utilize one of these IDE channels to install from an old DVD drive that I have lying around. Install the operating system as well. So let's go ahead and actually, oh yeah, I did want this. This is the slot I wanted this to go in. So we have our Intel NIC, which more or less seems installed. And as before, I'm putting my hand on the back side of the board and just supporting it when I push this in. I'm going to do all the screws at once pretty much because it's kind of a mess. And finally, alright, so now I get to do the fun job of putting these screws back in, which is going to be fantastic. I don't really like that, so let's see if we have some thumb screws handy here. Pretty sure I do. 1, 2. That's a lot better. So I'll probably end up eventually replacing those all with thumb screws. I don't feel like finding thumb screws right now, so we'll call it good. But I'm a little bit worried about stripping out the holes in there, trying to get a crazy screwdriver angle there. But alright, so I wanted to demonstrate how hard drives are mounted in this. You have the SATA connector side going this way. We go ahead and line up our little drive caddy thing. Just get the screw started. And the second screw, they have little isolating mounts, which is cool. And just go ahead and tighten it down. And we're really not trying to kill these things because it's really just meant to hold the drive steady. The rubber helps prevent vibrations. So go ahead and get a couple more of these screws out. Now, it's not as fast as a lot of more modern designs, I guess, that you'd see for caddies, but the thing I like is how secure these drives, I'll show you in a second, how secure these drives end up clipping in. It's ridiculous. It's like they're actually screwed into the case rather than just this little drive mount. The screws seem like they're a slightly weird size too. My screwdriver doesn't really like them. But if I just put pressure on them, it pretty much works. I'm not real concerned about stripping these out because they have a flathead blade available to use as well. Alright, so once you have the drive relatively well secured, they actually go in upside down, and when they clip in, I can lift the case by that. Like, it's really secure. So we got all 5 of our drives for now installed. Go ahead and tighten up our little thumb screws. We're almost done. It's just a matter of routing some power cables and some SATA data cables for these and then we'll be ready to install Windows. Now this is clearly a case where there's basically nothing I can do for cable management here, so we're just going to do what we can. I don't have any shorter SATA cables, so just got to go with what I got here pretty much, and just start plugging them in. And I have to remember that these are upside down, so that's confusing. So we're going to go ahead and hook up a Molex power and then 2 SATA powers as well. We need the Molex to power this fan, and also temporarily a DVD drive that I'm going to be putting in. And I don't like plugging in Molex things because it seems like the pins like to get out of alignment and it gets really difficult. There we go. Okay, so we got that plugged in. Our SATA power. Unfortunately, I have to switch this around. I'm not sure how long this is. That's kind of a shame. Is that going to be long enough? Just. It only needs to be just long enough, so whatever. For some reason that one's being tricky. There we go. Alright, so all of our drives are powered up. I'm going to go ahead and just probably end up tucking this up in this bay for now because I don't really have anywhere else to put it. Good enough, whatever. So I'll probably zip tie that up. I'm going to call this pretty much a complete build at this point. So I'm going to get a IDE cable and see if we can hook up some Molex power here. And I'm going to go ahead and install Windows on this. So I want to thank you guys for watching this. If you like this video, please do leave a like. I'll let you know how the system ends up working out later. And I'll catch you next time.